ready?
Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Brisker.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Miller Lite with the voices of the Bears, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer.
Week 2 of the Bears 2025 training camp got underway with Monday's first padded practice and a more realistic view of what to expect in the days to come. We discussed today at episode 155 of the Bears Etc. podcast. We're brought to you by Miller Lite with Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak. In this here podcast, we visit with Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer, who writes the popular Monday Morning Quarterback on All League Matters. He's at Hallis Hall last week to preview the Bears and Ben Johnson, a big topic of conversation. But no better man to ask than Tom Thayer about the first padded practices and the intrigue and the build-up to it, Tom, after a little run-up the last week in the heat, man. It was oppressive out there. It got worse as the day went out. This is dropping here on Tuesday, but yesterday was the first day of padded practice, and you're a sweater, so you notated the intense humidity.
Oh, my God. I went and stood outside and was talking to some of our brethren out there, and I was sweating so bad. I said, look, I had enough. I got to go upstairs and watch it back in the air-conditioned confines. But I think it's everything what a head coach wants out of a first padded practice. He wants it chippy. He wants it hot. He wants to start producing this word callousness that we always hear about, but sometimes it doesn't come up to how we want to see it formed. And today was Monday was the perfect day, man. It was hot. There wasn't any air moving, and because they had a ramp up period that I think was really important leading up to today, they were able to get some great work in. And I'm super encouraged by the first day of the padded practice, and I'm even more encouraged to watch the second day of a padded practice.
And by the way, we're going to hear from some of the guys from the podium on Monday. Jaquan Brisker is one of them, and also Drew Dahlman, and then special teams coordinator Richard Hightower. But before we get into any of that, I want to know what stuck out to you, and then I'll throw my 2 cents in.
First of all, starting the most important part of the football, offense and defensive line.
Of course.
And so I was super encouraged by what I saw out of the veterans that Ryan Poles brought in here. Joe Thuney's the real deal, man. He is fundamentally as sound as an offensive guard as I've seen in a long time. He never gets too excited or gets out over his skis where he's off balance, out of position, out of balance. I really encourage the same thing with Dahlman, the same thing with Jonah Jackson. The interior of these guys that were brought in here to be what they are everything so far initially we asked of Ryan Poles and his staff. Super encouraged by Karan Amagaji. I had a little bit of concerns because you talk about the upgrade and the type of talent you're playing. He wasn't included in contact practices at the beginning of camp last year, and he lost a lot of time. He's strong. He's physical, he's got good balance, and he's got good retaining balance. A lot of times offensive linemen, they can go out there and they can have the initial contact, and sometimes they fall off. They fall down because of balance. They can't work against the pressure that they're getting from the defensive linemen. Karan has the capabilities of doing all of that. Now, if I'm Dan Rashar, the offensive line coach, I'm going to give this kid as many reps as I possibly can. And I'm going to put him in some of the most difficult circumstances that he can possibly grow through. And I like to see it. I like to see the strength of Ozzie Trapillo. This guy, if he is convertible from right tackle to left tackle, that competition over there is going to be intense because that's the position that I kind of focused on today in one-on-one drills because, when you go to a one-on-one drill, the defensive line knows exactly what you're doing against them. So it's a lot easy easier for them to anticipate exactly what the offensive lineman is going to do against them. And then is that offensive lineman capable of doing what's expected of them? So that's why I'm so encouraged and sitting here talking, how fun it was to sit out there and watch them. And then having the opportunity to watch the last couple days of Colston Loveland.
Yep.
Big guy, man. He's a big receiver. He's a big tight end. And I think he complements the tight end room. He's not as expected to be the number one guy on the totem pole. He's part of a group of tight ends that can really help Ben Johnson increase his creativity from the tight end point of view on any offense, which is exciting to see. You see DeAndre Swift. Here's a guy that I think he's got a little bit of pressure on him. Because of what Ben Johnson said about the running back room, but also the way he's working, the way he's productive. He's got Eric Bieniemy, one of the toughest running back coaches in all the NFL. And so just initially a couple of things that are really exciting to see on the offensive side of the ball. The defense hasn't disappointed me either. Dennis Allen has these guys playing at a high level. Grady Jarrett is the real deal. He is going to make life difficult for whomever he's playing up against in games and in practices. So I'm excited to see what we have going on there initially.
Ditto on the Colston Loveland. The first thing that strikes me, he runs like a deer. He runs like a deer. He's a huge middle of the field target, and Caleb Williams with a nice connection to him. And then Jaquan Brisker. Flying around, and we'll hear from him. He knows he's going to be deployed, as we like to say, by this defensive coordinator, Dennis Allen. And Brisker, great work on the back end of the defense. He feels he should have intercepted a pass. You'll hear from him, but he knocked away a pass, trying him late on a route. And then the return of wide receiver Luther Burden III after a soft tissue injury. So he's back, first time really since rookie minicamp, so they're going to slowly work him in. And, we talk about the Colston Loveland, the dynamic with him and Cole and Durham Smythe, Stephen Carlson. There's others that are going to be competing for a roster spot. It's going to be really interesting how many tight ends they keep. The competition is fierce, but I think it's really going to pay dividends for both Colston and Cole. It's going to help each of them how they perform.
Yeah, what portion of the field are we talking about? Are we talking about short yardage goal line? Are we talking about two tight end sets? Are we talking about the red zone? So when you think about the value of big receivers against competition that you feel that you're better built for, then you kind of slide into the mind and the creativity of Ben Johnson and his fellow offensive coaches. And they're maneuverable. They're versatile. You can move them from the backfield to the line of scrimmage to the wide receiver position. And so I think you and I were sitting out there talking, and we are looking at different things going on the practice field. And I said, I guess we should grow to expect the unexpected.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun to see that because there is no monotony. There's a certain sense of pay attention at practice every day because there's going to be subtle differences and something else you have to look at. And I know you mentioned we have Coach Hightower coming up, but when you look at the group of athletes he has to choose from, especially the tight end position, it's going to make some of those special team decisions really difficult.
Join us for a day of fun, family, and football. Bears Family Fest tickets are on sale now. Visit chicagobears.com/familyfest for more details. All right, let's start with an offensive lineman to listen to. Drew Dahlman, your starting center, number 52. They asked about the running game and how the pads make a difference. Let's listen in to what the veteran from the Atlanta Falcons in his first 4 years had to say after practice on Monday.
There's a lot to the run game. There's a lot of cohesion. There's a lot of communication, all those things, as well as the physical piece, which was on more display today. But we've been working on all facets of it since April 7th or whenever our first day was. So this feels like a step in a long process that we've already undergone, or we've been undertaking.
How's the chemistry going with you and Caleb?
It's been good. Yeah. Caleb's awesome. Great to work with him. Great to work with the other O-line guys. And it's one of those things where, every day something gets better and then you always have new things to patch up and fix and work on. And it's been a pleasure to work on those things I need to do this, he needs to do this, and kind of work together on those.
Obviously, building a rapport with the quarterback,
there's always a bit of a process there, but is anything different when Caleb is, not as, I guess, familiar with the under center stuff as he is with the shotgun stuff? Is there anything different, like building that rapport with a guy who is also learning the under center at the same time?
I mean, honestly, I haven't really noticed. He does a great job with it. We've had like plenty of learning moments where we're kind of getting a feel for each other. Every quarterback and center exchange is like a little different. But yeah, it's been great, and he's done a great job.
Given his ability to throw on the run, kind of going both ways, what would a good run game just do to kind of unlock his strengths in the pass game? Yeah,
I think, kind of football 101, the more stress you can put on the defense, being able to run the ball, that opens things in the pass game. And when you're a team that can attack as an offense from multiple directions, as far as like run and pass and stuff like that, that makes you really effective. So I think it all ties together.
Is there something about, what do you know about Caleb today that you didn't know when camp started, just working with him day to day? Has anything jumped out at you? Putting you on the spot. No, sorry.
Yeah, it's tough. Football wise, we're learning new installs together, so we're learning things at the same time. So we know more now together than we knew at the very beginning. As a guy, we're just becoming good friends and learning. I haven't really thought about it like, what do I know now versus then?
How does DJ said the other day that he's only been 4 of 12 in terms of installs so far. How would you kind of characterize where the offense is in terms of still thinking and not being able to just play fast because you know everything?
Yeah, I think, as you're alluding to it, it is a process, and you need hundreds and thousands of reps to be able to master things, and we're doing everything we can to chunk away, and we always focus on, is today better than yesterday, and do we understand it a little bit more than we did the last time we ran it? And hoping to have everything perfect right now is like going to distract us from the goal of just being a little bit better today than the last time we ran the play.
What's your experience been like working with Joe and Jonah on both sides? Have you picked your brains for anything in particular?
Yeah, they're awesome. Two super knowledgeable O-linemen, great players, great guys. Just like using their eyes and their knowledge to see the whole picture and kind of get that and get all that communication happening is like incredibly helpful from a center's perspective, and then just good for the offense as a whole.
What can Jonah learn going against Grady?
Good question. Any O-lineman can learn a ton from going against Grady. He's a phenomenal player with tons of strengths, and I don't know if he has any weaknesses. Everything can be better. Someone that's a good pass rusher like that and a good run player is going to test your fundamentals and your technique and not let you get away with any kind of issues you have in your game. So he definitely applies that pressure and makes us better in turn.
Could you feel that in Atlanta when you were with him in Atlanta? I imagine sometimes he's probably annoying maybe to go against in practice, but could you have moments in Atlanta where you can tell, like, I got better today?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Having excellent players, of which we have many on defense, to exploit your weaknesses and teach you to overcome them is like in my opinion, one of the best teaching tools. And so having him and the whole defense as a resource is awesome.
All right, Drew Dahlman, veteran influence. You touched on it at the outset. One of the 3 interior guys that are going to make a difference. And I got to watch. Really, just kind of scratching the surface on his talent. This is year 5. But he appreciates a true representation of the run game when the pads come on. And the chemistry with Caleb on snaps. All these are things that you're going to keep an eye on. It's a rhetorical question. Is today better than yesterday? And that's what they're looking at. They just continue to, is today better than yesterday?
We talk a lot about the tight end position, and they have a variety of responsibilities. You talk about a center that has a variety of responsibilities. Ever since, you sit there and you listen to the huddle, you listen for your catchphrase, you listen for the snap count, you listen if it's under center or shotgun. And then you break the huddle turn, you go to the line of scrimmage, and then your hard work starts. You're identifying the responsibility of the linebacker you're responsible for. You kind of understand whom you're working with. And then you have to understand, what do you have to accomplish on your specific block, run or pass, in order for the play to be successful. So there's a lot more that goes into the mind of a center than a lot of the other offensive line positions. Look, sometimes we have a singular responsibility, and that's all we have to do. Make sure we get off the ball in the snap count. It's a little different because of he's working with a quarterback. He's got a variety of responsibilities, and I think it excites what this offensive line can offer you because they have a lot going.
Tom, as we talk about Dalton, he's the first thing you see sprinting out of the huddle to the line of scrimmage, and that's the tempo and kind of urgency that Ben Johnson wants. What's the benefit of that for an offense, and what is the negative for a defense when they see these guys sprinting out there? They could snap the ball quickly, or they could back off.
Exactly. Well, you said it. You answered the question. You break the huddle. Everybody gets into play. So are they going on quick count? And now the defense is thinking about their responsibility. Okay, I know we have a different defense called according to what their pre-snap movement can be, but if they snap the ball immediately, I have to stay in the position I'm in. And maybe we're trying to attack what we feel is a vulnerability in what your scheming is. But, then maybe it's getting to the line of scrimmage with time on the clock, so you're going to make a change later in that countdown. So you're waiting for the defense to kind of show a sign. Give me a tell. See if I can get a defensive lineman to jump a little bit throughout my cadence. And those are things that can really help in the structure of an offensive play a lot. But since they've been in practice, in whether it's no pads or pads, the efficiency and the speed in which they break the huddle is, I think all the fans, you're going to have to pay attention from as soon as that huddle it breaks, because there's nothing better than an offense that feels confident going on the quick count, because, defenses, they're not accustomed to that. They're accustomed to trying to get a couple tells themselves.
Yeah, well, the first thing that pops into my head, defenses that like to disguise late, they won't have time to make those shifts and so forth and try to rearrange the picture for the quarterback if it's a passing down, for example. So I like it. I like the way it looks. Am I right on that? You know what I'm trying to say?
100%. So a couple of podcasts ago, we had Andrew Billings on, and we are talking about how he can really disrupt the flow of an offense by him calling the signals for the defensive line to move and shift up and down the line of scrimmage. That puts all that to bed.
Yeah.
If you're an offense that can break the huddle and go on quick count, you don't give the chance for the defensive lineman to make that shift. Now you get them in a position that you feel most confident in, whether it's a protection or a run play that you're running, and you feel that you have the advantage with something of that deception.
This podcast is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer partner of your Chicago Bears. Tastes like Miller Time Chicago. Go to MillerLite.com/BearsPod to find delivery options near you. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Let's hit Richard Hightower, the Bears special teams coordinator, basically spreading the news that he's got a lot of different people to work with, the new additions, the drafted rookies, the undrafted rookies, the free agents, the veterans, guys trying to make this roster added to the mix, and now looking to find additions to his very good special teams unit, and he's looking for very specific individuals.
We talk about mentality from the very first start, like what we believe in, what our core is, exactly what our beliefs are, what our philosophy is. And the scouting department does a really good job of bringing those type of guys in. So from day one, if you don't have that, then you're probably not going to last in our room. But we judge that by the way they work. We evaluate everything they do. So we evaluate the way they watch tape, the way they come back, all right, from the tape after practice, how hard they work in the weight room, how they walk around, how they treat people. All of that is part of being a pro. And then ultimately it's about producing. So if they don't have the right mentality, they can't play here anyway, because that's how being is. Like they can't play here. And they damn sure can't play in my room if they don't have the right mentality.
What are you looking for in the punt returner that you end up picking?
Yeah, so first and foremost, looking for a guy that's going to secure the football for us. That's the first goal, is to secure the football and always give it back to our offense. Once we catch it, we're looking for a guy that can make plays, game-changing plays, not just a first down. We want guys that can make people miss in space and that can take it to the house. That's what we want.
Is anyone standing out?
They're all competing right now. I mean, I would say they're working hard. All of them are working hard every day. I tell you what, Torrey is doing a phenomenal job challenging them. all right, making it hard on them. A lot of specialty kicks out there that he's worked on over the summer. So that's challenging a lot of our punt returners. We're fortunate here because Randall L., was a punt returner in this league, and we got all our coaches back there helping. Obviously, we're coaching them, but they're coaching them too. So we're fortunate to have Antoine back there, and he loves it.
What changed play calling for you coming this season with all the different kinds of punts that Torrey can do? We've seen him break out so many different numbers. Is it, at a certain yard and distance, this the kind of punt we need here?
Yeah, that's another great question. So he has worked on a number of things over the break. You know how it is when you're a rookie, you're coming in, you're drinking out of a fire hose. He's had a chance, to really train, not train for the combine, not those type of things, where you're always doing something in preparation for the draft. So he's come back with a lot of different kicks, and we're excited to work with those throughout camp.
When you get into next week and you have to put the puzzle together on how to use the joint practices and the actual preseason game, what's your balance knowing how much you have to learn about so many different guys on teams?
Yeah, it's a tough task. We're up for it, but we're going to try to get as many guys evaluated and looked at as possible. The joint practices will tell us a lot. Padded practices will tell us a lot. Ultimately, preseason games will tell us what we need to know about those young kids.
When you watched film of Burden when he returned punts at Missouri, what do you think of him as a punt returner? What stood out?
The same thing that stood out on offense, that when he gets the ball, because I watch his punt return tape and his offensive tape. Any tape that he has, I'm going to watch it. So we watched all that tape. And what stands out to me is when he has the ball in his hands, he's a different dude. He's dynamic. So that's what stands out to me. And obviously we're excited about that draft choice, and we're excited about ways that he can prove that he can help this football team, but he's got to prove it.
You have another rookie in J.P. Richardson who I think ranked pretty highly in punt return.
Yeah, 11th in the country. Yep.
But what does he need to do to get in that mix? Because, a guy like that type of job could be something that helps him make the team.
Yeah, he's in the mix. He's on the chart just like everybody else. He'll get his opportunities. They'll come, and we've discussed that at length, and excited to see what he can do because he made some plays in a league in college they played some really good people. So he made some plays.
Has he stood out in any ways outside of just returning? Has he been on any gunner and different duties on special teams?
Yeah, he's been working hard just like all the rest of the guys. I mean, we're getting outstanding effort right now from all of our players, but he's doing a nice job. Is it where we want it to be? No, because Ben talked to us about continuous improvement, and that's what we all trying to do as players and as coaches. So that's what we've been focused on.
When would no history working with Ben prior to this that I know of, right? What's it been like being on his staff, being on a new staff for you?
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's been phenomenal. I mean, I love picking his brain. He's picking my brain. We talk about situations, we talk about players, we talk about special teams. He's heavily involved. He's in meetings at times, and for a lot of times he's in meetings a lot. And he's at every drill during special teams, watching each and every drill, which is impressive. I've been on a number of different staffs. I can't say every staff I've been on. All head coaches, they don't do that. But all you got to do is study his path, right? If you study his path, he's been around top-notch special teams his whole career. He came from a place that had really good special teams. He was around good special teams when he was in Miami. So he intuitively understands the value of field position and of changing games. And he understands how important it is to us for a football team, and he understands how important it is to the city of Chicago. So he's been phenomenal with that.
What he had to say about a couple of things. The return game, the competition there. Obviously, Devin Duvernay is a Pro Bowler. May be the guy, the leader in the clubhouse for both the kick and punt return game, but they may be two different. Maybe he's the kick returner, maybe somebody else the punt. I don't know yet. And Torrey Taylor in the punt game. I think Torrey Taylor is going to, again, elevate his game. And he was very good last year as a rookie. We anticipated. I think he's headed into a very different realm. He kicks the ball so many different ways, Tom.
Yeah, Torrey Taylor is a weapon. He's only going to continue to improve. He gets better understanding of the climate and the conditions and where he's kicking at different weeks into the season. Coach Hightower, he's got a super difficult job. because he's trying to identify where a blocker can fit into a tackling position and where a tackler can fit into a blocking position. And that's not always easy to identify. And so you got to have all eyes approach. He talked about Antoine Randall being able to help out the returners. What I really liked, he talked about Ben Johnson being in the special teams meeting, because now you got Ben Johnson. He may be looking at how a receiver fits into his offense, but look at the effort he's giving as a flyer on the punt team. Look at the results you're getting out of him. So now when you're trying to identify guys that are going to fill in the depth of this roster, somebody may catch his eye in a special teams meeting that elevate them on the offensive depth chart or even the defensive depth chart, because it's the same thing. When I was with the Bears and Mike Ditka sat in all special teams meeting, because he started as a special teams coach. He made suggestions. He made corrections. He identified people that were correct for the right position. And whenever you have a guy like Coach Hightower that's gained a lot of valuable experience throughout his time in the NFL, and now you got a first-time head coach that's sitting there in the meetings or standing next to the drill on the practice field, the information and the advice is invaluable.
And Ryan Poles talked about it the very first day of camp that we talked to him here. It's going to be harder to make this roster. It seems to be every year when you're building. And, you look at the special teams unit from Blackwell to Hardy to Agbang Bamiga to other positions across the line of scrimmage. It's going to be hard to make that special teams unit. Of course.
I mean, listen, making a special teams unit, Jeff, isn't exclusive or specific. You have to do a wide variety of details and assignments, because there's rarely is there one, I'm going to keep this one guy for punt return. No, you got to be on punt return. You got to be on kickoff return. You got to be on the punt team. You got to be, also there's a bunch of different skills you have to get into that special teams race. And that's why my first year as a professional with George Allen, he said defense is number 1, special teams is number 2, and offense is number 3. Wow. And he was 100% serious about that because of the enormity of the ground gaining or ground losing plays that you can have on special teams.
Very interesting. I don't know. How did that sit with you as an offensive lineman?
I was so young, at that time, I just respected everything he said, and he kind of gave an explanation of what he was trying to say. And it filtered up to us.
A couple wide receivers, keep an eye on those guys in special teams. Certainly somebody who's getting a lot of attention for the catches he's been making so far, and that is the undrafted free agent J.P. Richardson, because he was an outstanding punt returner as well in college at TCU. And then keep an eye on Ja'Day Walker, a rookie out of Texas A&M, couple punt blocks in college. So using his length to block punts, he's an outstanding athlete with a big vertical jump. He's, just a very good athlete. So you never know how some guys like that can make an impact. 6'3", 206. Are aches, pains, or injuries keeping you on the sidelines? Athletico's movement experts are here to help you turn your setbacks into comebacks and create a personalized game plan for your recovery. With no prescription or referral needed, Athletico Physical Therapy is where your comeback story begins. Athletico, proud to be the official physical therapy partner of the Chicago Bears. All right, let's move into Jaquan Brisker. Just hoping upon hope that he can play as much as possible here every practice and play through the season. It's something of a goal for his. He mentioned that first day in pads. Let's get his react after a first day in padded practice.
It felt great. It just felt great just putting on the pads, things like that, getting back to hitting and, just getting used to running around with the pads.
What have been your early impression of Dennis Allen's defense? Do you feel like the trickery and stuff? Do you see that already? Sense that already?
Yeah, we're playing a lot of different coverages and things like that, and as you see, we're in and out with a lot of different guys. We're rotating a lot of different guys, but it's fun. It's fun. We're flying around and making plays, and we're actually playing faster than I think they thought and to what I thought. So I feel like we're in a good position.
Well, you've been very vocal on Twitter, X, whatever they call it now, with how much you want to come back and prove, okay, everything that all y'all said, let me show y'all what I really can. What are you looking to prove this season?
That I could really just play all 21 games. When I say 21, plus playoffs and Super Bowl. But just really I could play all 21 games and that I'm a playmaker. I make plays, I'm a hit, I'm a tackle, cover, make plays on the ball, things like that. So
Are there any tweaks that you've had to make to how you play to try and stay on the field maybe a little bit longer? Because you played the play right and it still ended in a concussion.
yeah, probably just not lead with my helmet. I'll say that, not lead with my head. Other than that, that was my first, injury that I had tackling somebody. So I'll say that.
Well, we've talked to you about DA. What have been your impressions of Al Harris and Matt Giordano as your back?
I feel like they're both great coaches. They're both smart, and they work together good in the meeting room. They feed off each other. Even on the field, they feed off each other. So I feel like they're two great coaches, and I'm looking forward to keep working with them this year.
Jaquan, we're so used. We know how you love to bring the energy when you're out there. Who are some of the other guys on defense that you think kind of join you in that regard?
Grady, and Kyler.
What stood out about Grady so far? How do you kind of feel his energy?
The first day he was talking a lot of stuff. He was talking a lot of stuff to offensive linemen, and we heard it. I heard it. I was like, oh, I'm like, damn. Yeah, I like it though. I like it. I'll say that he was talking a lot, and I definitely heard. He's like, I'm not no rookie. I don't know why y'all running over here. I'm like, all right, I like that. Yeah, let's go.
Has there been a way that Dennis Allen has utilized you that maybe was different than how you've been utilized before?
Yeah, I'm in a lot of different packages, so I'm studying other positions too. So which is perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. I've been waiting for so long, but now here it goes. So yeah, I'll say that, which is good for me.
What are you looking forward to most? You're obviously really excited to be using these different packages. Like, what are you excited to show or to do?
Just show that I could just play everywhere and that I can make plays anywhere on the field. So they see it, so it'll come.
When you talk about different packages, are you talking about using just all over the field, different roles, different downs, different, how do you explain?
Yeah, just different roles. I'm gonna be close to the line of scrimmage. Sometimes I'm gonna be back, but I love being closer to the line of scrimmage. So just have me anywhere where you gotta account for me, try to see where I'm at and things like that. Just like Ben said the other day, you gotta know where 9 is, and that's true. So yeah, I'll say I'll be close. I'll be in the back. I might be outside corner. I might be in the slot. You never know.
I feel like that'll be a big improvement in the run game this year. That was something that really after you went out, it seemed like the run game kind of fell off. And
yeah.
I feel like that'll bring up improvements to the run game this season with you being close to the line.
Yeah, I think so. Anytime I'm closer to the ball and in the run game, I know how to fit. I know how to play the run and things like that. It's simple and easy for me, and it makes everybody else play faster. So, I'm very effective.
I just love how he flies around back there. As we spoke to a group earlier on Monday, and I said, hey, listen to practice because if you get the chance, no question about it, you'll be hearing Jaquan Brisker. Moments into the beginning of practice after calisthenics, guess who's hooting and hollering? It's Jaquan Brisker. He just has energy. He appreciates the energy the aforementioned Grady Jarrett brings to the table and the confidence. Which you need more of that on this football team. Can't have too much, but I just love his approach right now. It's very measured, it's very thoughtful, and Jaquan Brisker knows that this coaching staff sees a lot of potential in him being a playmaker.
Yeah, I think when you look at Jaquan Brisker, we all know that he has the capabilities of being a superstar safety in the NFL. But when you look at him and Kyler Gordon, they're kind of a dynamic duo because I watched that same excitement, enthusiasm, that encouragement, the going, Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker running 30 yards downfield when they're not even in the drill just to congratulate a defensive back that made a nice play. And Jaquan is a special guy, man. He's got all the skills in the world. And if he can have a run of a few healthy years, no telling what his upside will ultimately be because his athleticism, his intelligence, his willingness to hit people, all those types of things that are hard traits to find, all of them in a defensive back or a guy like that. Jaquan has all of them. And I tell you, I sit there and I think about him and I hope for him every day, because if he's on the field, the Bears are a better defense and a better football team.
You know, I approached him. I saw him after the podium. I just asked him something quick because I heard an interview with Derwin James, the Chargers, and I'm just now looking up his stats here as we're talking about this, because Derwin James, he's deployable. This is one of the premier safeties in the NFL. He's been rocking back and forth. He started his career at free safety. That's where he made his starts, and then now in the box, a box safety. So he can be used in many different ways, including as a linebacker and so forth. Derwin James has 17 career sacks, and they've been piling up here in the last few years, 5.5 sacks last season. So I said, hey, Derwin James takes a few, but he'd like to take more. He takes pass rush reps. I go, do you ever take pass rush reps? He goes, hey, I took one today. I go, okay, I like that. You know, in the individual period, why not? Yep. And Derwin James apparently is always asking, hey, can I do Indy? Can I do Indy? Which means individual drills. With the pass rushers, you pick up things, you learn things, you learn how to use your hands, you learn how to attack when you're an undersized player versus a big, strong defensive lineman. And then I noticed this, Tommy. So hold that thought. Derwin James started all 16 games as a rookie, went to the Pro Bowl. Next year he suffered an injury. Only played 5 games, and then he missed all of 2020 in his third year. Fourth year, came back to start 15 games. 14 games, and then back-to-back 16-game seasons, and his production has skyrocketed. I'm not suggesting that's the exact path that he could be taking, but if you stay healthy and you stay on the field, look what can be done. Derwin James is a perfect example of that, a veteran of 6 years in the NFL.
You know, one thing about Jaquan Brisker that I think that can help him the most is rarely when you blitz as a defensive back that's going to be blocked by an offensive lineman is it obvious. You're always disguised. You're always coming for an angle or from the outside where you're all of a sudden in the advantage because you're a better athlete going against a lesser athlete in an offensive lineman that's trying to cover a lot of ground to get their body in front of you. And like you see Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker, they have great bendability on the aggressive. So they can come and rush at an offensive lineman. They can bend and still make progress upfield where the offensive linemen don't have a chance to get down that low and get hands on them. And a lot of time it's a complete miss. And then if that defensive back can redirect its energy and get back under balance, that's when sacks like that happen. So the reason I like Jaquan Brisker, the blitzer, is because they never count you as part of your responsibility as an offensive line. They're going to say, yeah, man, this guy might come. He's kind of pulling my chain. And if he decides to come, now you got an offensive lineman that's taken 4 slide steps to get out of him. Advantage defensive back. And so that's why when you see a guy like Kyler or a guy like Jaquan Brisker, they can win sacks reps because they're the better athlete going against sometime an out-of-balanced offensive lineman.
Hey, Bears fans, Steinhoffels is a proud partner of the Chicago Bears and now open in Orland Park. Steinhoffels is Chicagoland's furniture and mattress leader with the largest selection to fit every style and budget and is 100% employee-owned. Shop in-store and online at steinhoffels.com. And good news, Chicago, United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears and you too. Stopping by at Hal saw many national writers and NFL Network enthusiasts, you name it, they're coming. They're coming to see the Bears. They hear a lot of great things. And one of those was Albert Breer, the longtime writer, Sports Illustrated, former NFL Network, and does that Monday morning quarterback that Peter King got started. The baton passed to Albert Breer, who had time over the years to get to know Ben Johnson, sat him down, and had a lot of great things to say about the Bears' new head coach. All right, Albert Breer, our guest here as we look at Bears Training Camp 2025. Monday morning quarterback, Sports Illustrated, outstanding. First of all, going into that role, which was so popular because of Peter
Uh-huh.
King. I mean, do you feel blessed and honored to do that?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I I'd known Peter for years before he hired me, and it's one of those things like where when I was looking at the idea of leaving NFL Network, I really wanted to. I got kind of sick of standing in front of stadiums and giving weather and injuries, in 40-second bites. And so it's kind of like looking like what's the next step for me. And Peter kind of came out of nowhere with it, like a ways before, like, hey, would you be interested in this? And it took a little bit, but when we started talking about it, he was like, yeah, and how about you, there's 2 years left of my contract. How about you take over for me? So I was kind of floored by that, and it's obviously been a great experience. It's given me a chance to, work with a lot of great younger people too. People like Emily Kaplan and Kaylin Kaler and Robert Klemko, and like that. I'd like to think I've helped. So it's been an awesome experience. But yeah, beginning to take over for Peter was pretty flattering and humbling for sure.
And it just opens up a whole world that you probably wouldn't have otherwise appreciated, the in-depth look at big moments in the NFL.
Yeah, and I've always said this, like when people ask about my job, it's the fundamentals of it to me are pretty easy. It's get to know people, build relationships with them, build trust with them, and be able to know what the hell is going on. And, you can't tell stories, you can't report news, you can't do any of that if you don't know what's going on. And so yeah, I mean, like some of my job is reporting the news, some of my job is storytelling. There's a competitive element to all of it, obviously,
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, like that part of it, like being able to go in depth on some things, being able to report things in the moment on others, being able to move fast, I think has always been kind of something that I prided myself on. And, it's just, for me, it's just about building the relationships with the people so they trust you to tell their stories, and I like some of my favorite stuff is like the draft stuff. And I remember, writing about the Bears process with Caleb a bunch, when they were going through it. So that stuff's always been, I think that's something that Peter did exceptionally well. So
I
it's
used
great
to
to
love
be able to
the
do it.
post Super Bowl, the big moments.
Yeah.
I covered 27 straight
Yeah.
Super Bowls, but
Yeah.
Couldn't wait to read what really happened, how it all happened.
For sure,
stay
for
up
sure.
till God knows when to get that done.
And I think like that starts with just being curious about like that stuff in general to begin with. I mean, for me at least, it's interesting listening to people tell those stories, and it's a great feeling knowing that you'll be the one that'll be able to tell that story, and so
that's a one of one.
Yeah, and it's cool because it's like, I'm a pretty competitive person, and I like probably to my own like mental detriment, like I measure myself against other people and everything else, and I like that's something to be really competitive with, the same way breaking news is competitive, like all that stuff, like you find a way to compete with it, and you try to be the best you can, which hopefully is better than everybody else.
All right, so you stopped by Hallisall and Lake Forest. What are you learning?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly Ben's building now. That's for sure. And, you can see it like throughout. And
Caleb,
part of it is they're just trying to get him to see everything faster, and they're trying to speed him up, and they're trying to get him in a position where when he gets out there, it's going to seem easy, So I know what they're trying to do is get him to drink through a fire hose and almost overload him with stuff. They did that through the spring. They're doing that early in camp. And I think the hope is that over time, like now we got this big volume of stuff we've worked with him on. We're going to get through all of that. And then when we get through all of that, we're going to be able to start paring it down. And so I think it's going to look better over the next month. I think it's just right now, it's like, how can we increase the volume of things he's seeing from defenses? How can we see how he's applying the things he's doing on offense to the defense? How can we see how he's picking up the offense in general? And what works for him and what doesn't, and then I think you kind of go from there and figure out what the guy does well, what he can't do yet, what maybe some stuff that like maybe he can do that in October, November, and then you come up with a plan.
You clearly had some time to spend with Ben Johnson when he was in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have the same idea that every team in the league that wanted him had, that this guy,
Yeah.
is the uniqueness of him, his intelligence and all that, but how he'd be in front of a team even. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm blown away.
That was always the biggest question, you know, it's like how he was going to be in front of a team. And I think a key to that, like, look, there are certain guys, and this especially goes for the guys that played in the league, you know what I mean? Like a Dan Campbell, Mike Vrabel, D'Amico Ryans, like there's no question how a guy like that's going to look in front of the team. Of course that's going to work, you know what I mean? Like, and there are some guys who didn't play in the league, like Sean McVay, who are really good at it. And then there are other guys who've been successful who aren't forces of nature in front of the room. Like Andy Reid isn't like, I mean, you're like, he's not tearing people's faces off in the meeting room. But like I think the key with all of it is just to be yourself, and to find a way to be yourself. And I always think of Mike McDaniel as somebody who nobody thought could be the guy in front of the room. Matt LaFleur is sort of the same way. But those guys became comfortable enough in their own skin where they could be genuine, and they're so smart that they were giving the players the answers to the test. And so if you're yourself and you can give the players the answers to the test and you can build the relationships with them, so when it doesn't look right away, you can ride out some of the stuff, right? Like, because there are lots of smart guys where they weren't able to teach it fast enough to get results fast enough to keep the guys sold. So part of it is keeping them sold in your system, and that's building relationships.
And honestly,
so,
I found with offensive-minded coaches or offensive coordinators in particular, maybe you feel the same way, they might be the most stubborn people on the planet at times.
Yeah.
So they don't even listen to other coaches. To be flexible.
Yeah.
And I think Ben has that. I think he's creating this as it's going.
Yeah, he's really smart. And I do think I think from the perspective of like timing, I think waiting the extra couple of years really helped him because he knew where he was headed. Like if he had taken the Carolina job, and I think it was it 23?
Yeah.
If he had taken the Carolina job in 23, I think that might have been tough, but because he knew he was on the precipice, because he knew he was close, he was able to spend the last 2 years really refining that. And, I think he's found his voice in front of the room. I think that piece of it is it's just a matter of being yourself. The one thing you can't be is phony. Like,
people see through it.
Well, and the players most importantly, and I always say this about NFL players, like the one thing they all have, and I don't know why, maybe it's because they've been lied to so much over the course of their lives, but they all have an incredible meter for BS, and they all can see right through it if you're lying to them. And when you lie to it, if you get in front of the room and you start lying to players, you're done.
Yeah, you get one
done.
chance.
And so, or you're trying to be someone else, you're done. So you got to be yourself. And I think that's a process for some guys of just finding their voice in front of the room, and I think Ben's there.
The fact that he didn't hire a lot of his friends or associates,
yeah,
and he really took a broad view of what's out there and got a lot of experience purposely to help him, cross that canyon, is really the sign of somebody that gets it.
Again, like the self-awareness to me is the big piece of it. It's do you understand where your blind spots are? A lot of guys are going to feel like a lot of guys feel like I'm ready for this, and they all work so hard. I mean, most of them do. They work so hard to get there. Do you have the self-awareness to look in the mirror and know where you're going to need help and because in the end, you can't do everything, and you have to have people you trust around you, and you have to have people that are going to be able to do things that maybe aren't your strength. So I think that's a big piece of it too. I like bringing in Dennis Allen, like a two-time head coach.
I was just going to bring that up.
Like DA has seen a lot. Like DA went through it, in Oakland and went through it in New Orleans, and he's just got a ton of experience having seen so many different things. And, I when they're I know this, when they're talking about how they present things, DA a lot of times has been part of that conversation because he's had experience doing it. So I think there's a certain self-awareness to it. I've seen younger coaches get in trouble where their staffs are just way too inexperienced, and sometimes you see those groups stub their toe early on because they just didn't build it into the staff. And Ben didn't make that mistake.
Toughest division in football, would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. The Vikings are loaded. I mean, we'll see what happens with the quarterback. Like, I think JJ's got a chance to be really good. The question is how fast it happens and how fast it comes together. But that's an absolutely loaded team, and Kevin O'Connell's got that program humming. Detroit's obviously got the questions for coordinators, and I think what Ben did is so specific to Ben himself. I think they know it'd be a mistake to just try to replace him. So there's going to be some change on the offensive side of the ball. With Johnny Morton there as the offensive coordinator, I think it's a little bit of a smoother transition or an easier transition going from Aaron Glenn to Kelvin Shepard, just because Shepard was there the whole time. And then losing their center is a big deal too.
Oh, yeah.
But there are so many players in that roster that are in year 3, year 4, year 5 that are still ascending, that are already really good players. Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Brian Branch, Aiden Hutchinson looks great coming off the broken leg, Jack Campbell. Like, these guys are already good players, and they have a chance to get better. So the hope is that helps them ride out the transition and coordinators. And then Green Bay, to me, is the one, and I was just there, where it feels like they've got like a really good balanced roster, a lot of good players, and their question is now who can elevate to great. So they got the young receiver group, with Wicks and Watson's coming off the ACL and Reed and Dobbs, and then they're bringing in, Matthew Golden and Savion Williams, who are both top 100 picks, and they've got Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. These are all good players, but who's going to elevate? Same thing on the D-line, 4 first-round picks: Rashawn Gary, Devontae Wyatt, Kenny Clark, Lucas Van Ness. Is there a guy there who's going to become a real dominant player? And it goes for the quarterback too. Like, can the quarterback elevate from good to great? So I think that's the question for them, but all 3 of those teams should be right in the playoff mix, and we'll see how the Bears fit into it.
Last question. It is schedule related. Bears play some great quarterbacks. They happen to play almost all of them on the road.
Yeah.
How challenging is that for a defense when you got, the Joe Burrows, Lamar Jacksons, Jaden Daniels, Brock Purdy, Goff, Love?
Yeah.
I am missing a few, but they're going to get a built-in advantage immediately. They're playing in their own stadium, but the Bears are getting all these considered top 10 quarterbacks on the road.
It's obviously tough, like when you're going into their environment and having to compete against those guys, and it's going to be challenging. The good news is they do have some experience on the defensive side of the ball now. It's funny, like I've heard good things over the course of the day on Tremaine Edmonds and the offseason that he's had, and he's got 8 years experience. He's still on 27.
It's the craziest thing of all.
And, so guys like Edmonds and Sweat and, on the back end with Jalen Johnson and, and Kyler Gordon and Brisker, like you've got like guys that are still young but have experience. And, I think that should help at least, but there's no question it's a tough road to hoe.
So word's traveling, Tom. Word's traveling. Things are changing, and Ben Johnson, the familiarity with coordinators from a lot of these writers and insiders, they get to know these guys long before anybody else in a way that allows them to travel to camps, and they're working the phones all the time, and so I appreciate some of those comments.
Well, I like when you and Albert Breer were talking about the division, because Albert Breer, he's got his hands on the pulse of the league, understands what's going around, the different stories that maybe the media never gets to talk about because it's a hush-hush story or topic. But when you guys were talking about the division, he's really up to speed on all the different names within the division and how it makes it competitive and where different teams are going. He's got a lot of good things to say about Ben Johnson and his whole career development over time. You talked about Ben not hiring a group of buddies, but a group of good coaches. And so I think that's a really important topic, because when you go out there and you look at the Bears coaching staff, you develop a sense of camaraderie, but it's also a sense of work ethic that you get to understand about guys maybe you haven't been around in a while. So I like Albert Breer's take on the league, and I like your guys' take on the division.
Yeah, that Monday Morning Quarterback column is excellent. You get really behind the scenes information that not everybody is not able to get. So the story behind the story, that's what I appreciate. One thing, you mentioned the division, and you and I were talking to a group a couple days ago last week, and I mentioned the 33rd team listed all of the weaponry in the division. And when you look at it on paper, not just in your mind's eye, quarterbacks, receivers, running backs, tight ends, it's a wow division, man. It is.
Yeah.
And again, all due respect to the AFC West and that great foursome of head coaches that are some of the highest paid in the National Football League and the quarterbacking in that division. But this is weaponry plus black and blue. Because it's a combo. This is going to be a rough and tumble division, Tom.
But, it's when you look at the division, the guys we know already. We know DJ Moore. We know J.J. Jefferson. We know the tight ends. But you think about the up-and-comers. You think of a guy like Roma Dunze. Really as successful he was in college and where he was drafted last year, I don't think we've really even scratched the surface of what Roma Dunze can be. Great red zone catch the other day at practice, talking about developing a relationship with Caleb Williams. But as many of the known weapons there are in this division, you just go back to the running back position alone. There's guys like Rome that haven't even scratched the surface yet. We don't even know what he's about. And so I'm excited to see what the future holds for a guy like Rome and DJ as a combo.
Yeah, and the tight end combo. So, there's some good ones in the division, but theoretically, we believe they're going to be used a lot more. It's going to be fun to watch.
Cole Kmet, me, most underutilized offensive weapon the Bears had last year, but when I start to get to see and get to be around and get to watch Colston Loveland a little bit more, it would just be a love to be a mad scientist, offensive developer, and being able to, you want to talk about deployment for Jaquan and Kyler, you talk about deployment for Colston. Dude's going to be all over the field.
How do you tell a cashier you're a Bears fan without telling them you're a Bears fan? Well, with the Chicago Bears PNC Bank Visa debit card, which gets you exclusive discounts on Bears merchandise. Find out more at pnc.com/BearsCard. That's going to wrap us up for our podcast. 2 again every week now throughout the rest of the season. So we'll be back with you later in the week. Thanks to our guest Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated MMQB. For Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please subscribe now on the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down, Bears.